Welcome back, friends. Today I have a very special guest joining me, and you're going to love this conversation. If you're new here, my name is Jamie McQuivey, and I'm a Christian holistic nutritionist and digestive expert, and the creator of the transformational program Healthy by Design, the creator's blueprint for healthy living, a safe space where I help you heal digestion, harness your hormones, and balance weight, all while strengthening your testimony and grounding your health in Christ by applying His principles and patterns using history, science, and sacred texts. If you're ready, click the link in the show notes. Now, grab your herbal tea, settle in, and let's begin this incredible conversation. Welcome back to Gallbladder Gone, Now What? I am here with Unique Hammond, who is a holistic nutrition practitioner and bean protocol specialist. She's dedicated to helping you move through surviving to thriving after healing herself from chronic autoimmune conditions like Crohn's and endometriosis. Unique found her silver bullet in foundational nutrition and lifestyle changes. She now guides thousands of clients towards profound, lasting health, offering high-level support and clarity needed to create lifelong wellness and vitality. She has the Your Great podcast. She's on Instagram. She is the author of Your Taste Buds Are Assholes. So, which I love the title of that book. So welcome, welcome. And go ahead and say hi.
Hello. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. And I'm so excited that you're also a bean person because I really think that I don't just think, I've seen the incredible value of eating a high fiber diet.
Right.
So,
And it's so powerful and people don't realize. And so you have a little bit when we just talked in the intro that of the past of having endometriosis and Crohn's disease. So tell us a little bit about that story.
so I was raised what you would say is healthy, kind of more on the Weston A. Price. For those who don't
Yeah.
know what that is, it's kind of like a high saturated fat diet, a lot of animal products. Um, and I grew up on raw milk. So you could say that I was like raised pretty healthy.
Yeah.
My mom was a witch doctor, herbalist who was always like, we never saw a doctor, we never went on antibiotics.
Hmm.
So when I left home, and we weren't raised on sugar. When I left home, I joke that my book, instead of being called Your Taste Buds Are Assholes, would have been called Snickers for Breakfast because I just thought sugar was the bee's knees. And, so I kind of went on this sugar and then in my 20s, alcohol, and then diagnosed with endo in my 20s by my OBGYN. And my sister was also diagnosed with endo, but she had the surgery. I had kids. We kind of took two different paths there. I was also married. So,
Hmm.
um, and then at 34, after having two babies, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. So, they haven't really said that endo's a autoimmune condition yet, but I feel like they're going to get there with that being kind of part of the spectrum of autoimmune conditions. Um, and so I just had a lot of health issues from somebody who was, supposed to be pretty healthy, and who ate, like anybody, if you met from my past, would be like, oh, Unique was the healthiest person we know. And I feel like every person I talk to is the healthiest person they know, but they're not healthy.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, your body
and
kind of tells the story, right? I
your
mean,
body tells the story. Yeah, the one that you're not talking about, the body tells the story.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So when you were at your sickest with Crohn's, what symptoms kind of made you just go, you know what, things have got to change. This is not okay. And some women may be experiencing this, and some women we talk here are with or without a gallbladder. So, it starts a cascade. These things that happen in our body. It's not one thing. Like you may have started with endo, and then you got to Crohn's, and it would have continued, right?
Right.
And so, what made you say this is enough?
Yeah. Yeah. Pooping my pants and vomiting at the same time was kind of, the rock bottom.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. When you're like, this is not functional. I can't
Not
be.
functional, having to carry clothing around. But so before I got the diagnosis, I was very, having grown up super holistic, I was actually really pro doctor. It was long before I was ever diagnosed with anything. It was my hobby to collect great doctors,
Mhm.
of all kinds, by the way, of holistic and medical. I just thought they were the bee's knees. And somebody would be like, oh, this doctor is amazing. I'd be like, oh my gosh, amazing. I'm going to go see them. Why are you seeing them? I don't know. I'm just seeing. It was like foreshadowing.
Mhm.
And yeah. So, when things were starting to slide, I had a whole team of doctors that I had assembled. And I saw them and I'm like, hey, I've always had stomach issues and kind of for a young person, acid reflux, which, one of my great doctors was like, oh, just take Prilosec for. And I was like,
Mhm.
cool, Prilosec. Um, and if a doctor said, take an antibiotic, I was the first one in line. Like I totally deviated from my super holistic upbringing to dabble in everything, cut corners.
Yeah.
Um, and just get back to work, whatever it takes, and just get the kids to school and just, like keep the life running and do whatever it takes to do that. So yeah, it was kind of like an interesting journey downwards because as I started to get more sick and more sick, the doctors were tracking and they were like, yeah, my Chinese medicine doctor was like, your pulse is all over the place, you're losing weight, you need to go see a GI. Went to the GI, ran a ton of tests, didn't really have any conclusive like diagnosis from all the testing we did. And on
Mhm.
paper, I was healthy. So, it wasn't like until I was really down to 90 pounds and he'd been kind of being like, you need a colonoscopy because we can't find anything wrong with you. And sometimes autoimmune is like that. So I just really at 30, 32 was like, I don't want to get a colonoscopy. Like that feels like a pretty invasive procedure and ended up getting it at 34 and being diagnosed with severe Crohn's disease.
Yeah, and as you were talking, I was thinking, I don't know if you experience this with your clients, but I experience this with mine, is that we've actually forgotten what normal is. We think common is normal. And so I was talking to a client and she's like, she would go to the bathroom, have a bowel movement every 3 to 4 days, and she was told that was normal. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I was too when I started getting really constipated, when I was first started getting really sick, and I kind of had constipation all growing up. Um,
Mm.
but I had the opposite upbringing issue. I mean, I remember lots and like 4 out of 5 days going to school, and we stopped at the 7-Eleven to get packaged wrapped donuts for breakfast. Like
Shut
that's what
up.
we did. Yeah, it was
That
so
was like my fantasy. I was like, give me that like Hostess Twinkie cake.
yeah, so that's like what I grew up on. And, it was a really special day when we got the fresh donuts, and stuff. So, um,
But be honest, were you mad about that growing
no,
up? Like, no,
no.
no.
And it was great,
Yeah.
but and I was actually, I feel like my constitution is really healthy because I was able to manage that for 20 years. And then it started going, okay, we're done here, you
Yeah.
know? And so I went to a GI and he's like, it's perfectly normal to go once or twice a week, just as long as you're, and I was like, something in that did not feel right. Like I was, like, this is not okay. And so do you have clients that don't really understand what normal is?
Okay. I think it depends on where the client is from. So in California, they have this very skewed perspective that if they're not going 3 times a day, there's
Mm,
something wrong.
okay.
And
So
I'm
the other
like,
end of the spectrum.
yeah. And I'm like, no, actually, once a day, complete clear out, totally healthy, totally fine. And in fact, for women, every other day, as long as there's no symptoms, is perfectly fine too, because progesterone tends to slow down, um, bowel movements because it relaxes the muscles. So it is not uncommon around ovulation to go every other day.
Hmm.
Most people don't drink enough water, so there's that.
How much
But
water do you suggest?
I mean, I shoot for 3 liters a day through various measures. I have my warm water over here. I have my husk water over here. I've got water in every room waiting for me. So I just sip water all day. I don't, At this point, I don't track.
Yeah. It's
But
kind of
especially
habitual.
if you're a person with harder bowel movements, you need to be thinking about how much fiber you're eating and how much water you're taking in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, so you wrote a book. So what made you want to write this book and give us a little bit in there?
I wanted, I don't know if to say that I wanted to write this book, but I wanted to share because on the outside, I look like the healthiest person. Even when I was 90 pounds in LA, people were like, oh my God, you look so good, Unique. And I was like, shut up. That is horrible. Like I'm skin and bone. Like when,
Yeah.
but I was one of those people who really didn't look sick until I was absolutely flat on my back and
Mm,
just incapacitated, couldn't get out of bed. I mean, my kids don't remember the fact that they spent a majority of those 5 years putting me to sleep at night because I
mm.
couldn't get out of bed. And it just was it was pretty awful. What was the question?
Right, why you wrote the book.
Oh, why I wrote the book. So yeah, it was really at the end of the day to say to people that if you're struggling, and again, to put this into perspective, I wrote this, 2017, I was writing this book, 2016, I was writing this book. This is long before all of the things that you have at your fingertips these days,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Even working with my mentor, she found me on a fluke. Like I would have never found her through the internet in those days. In those days. Um, and so I wrote the book because I was like, hey, if you're out there struggling with health imbalances, food is an incredible lever to pull. And I was a sugar addict. I like bad day sugar, good day sugar. Go out to dinner, dessert. Like I was a person who, leave no dessert behind kind of
Yeah.
person. So I had chocolate bars in my gym bag. I had treats. I was treating myself all the time. So I wanted to put it out there as like, hey, there's another way. Like I took the medical way, taking all the pain medication for my endo and trying to cover things up and make it go away. And all of those things just quietly built while my brain was offline to the actual suffering of my body.
hmm one thing I love, I was listening today is talking about autoimmune, is I'm a firm believer that we can heal our bodies. I've seen it happen. And so I know that people are like, oh, but you can't heal autoimmune. It just goes into remission. And that's you know, people like to argue about that. But so I don't want to argue about that. But I just feel like whether it goes away or it goes into remission, it's possible. And there's so many people suffering right now and just being like, well, my doctor said that I just have to learn to live with this and manage this. So what would you say to that?
I would say that, I'm aware of that great debate of you can't say healed when it comes to autoimmune. So I say long term remission.
Okay.
And also, there's something really special to not accepting the healed diagnosis, by the way,
hmm
because I show up every day to maintain remission. And I think when we think something is healed, we
Mm.
kind of get
Get
back to our old
lackadaisical.
tricks. We
Yeah.
go back to our old tricks, We're like, oh, we're good. I'm gonna even clients of mine who go into remission, whether it's with medication or with diet, you see them relax and go back to their old tricks. And I'm like, wait, if the old tricks worked, you wouldn't have been sick in the first place.
Yeah.
So how about we reframe long-term remission with I show up daily for myself?
Absolutely. With that, I also have a lot of clients and friends actually who their family and their husbands are not on board. Are yours on board? And if so, how did you get them there? And if not, what do you do about that?
So that's a tough one because that's one of the hard problems,
Yeah.
of doing what I do. Is that sometimes it's the husband I'm working with and the wife is not on board and misses date nights and blah blah blah.
hmm
And sometimes more often, because I predominantly work with women, it's the woman who's really trying to take care of herself. And then the partner is really, you know, not on board. Um, and so they really have to carve out their space for themselves. And I don't think there's anything wrong with two people eating different meals. But some people really have a problem with that. And I would say that I've seen that sabotage a health journey more times than I can count.
Yeah. And I work with my clients and it's like, this is for you. So I try to eat no later than 5:30 or 6 because I like to go to bed, not full and those
Are
type
you
of things.
part of the menopause club? Because that's my
Yeah, that's funny because I do want to talk about that because but like sometimes my husband works late and so I just have dinner. And so when he comes home, he eats dinner and I sit there and enjoy it and have like a cup of tea. So
yeah.
I don't think that we have to be so stringent, like we have to eat at the same time or we have to eat the same meal. I can be like, hey, this is what I'm doing for me, and I just want to spend time with you. So I've even before when I've been healing things is like, oh, we can go out to eat, but I'm going to eat first. And when I get there, I'm just going to have some like lemon water and just enjoy the conversation. So we
Mhm.
don't always have to be doing that.
And
So,
I think it's the severity of your symptoms as well, right?
mhm,
So if you are really working off the back foot that you've been on for a while, the practices that you're talking about are wonderful. It's like you're still communing with others, you're still experiencing others, you're still in relationship with others, but you're taking care of yourself.
mhm.
If you don't have a severe health condition, then for a lot of my clients, they eat beans before they go out and then they just make good choices for themselves.
Yeah,
So there's definitely a
yeah.
sliding scale, right?
Yeah, and like if you're in crisis, it's like, okay, I always tell people when they're in crisis, it's 100%. When you're not, it's 80/20,
Yeah.
and just kind of have that sweet space because we can become I teach at the college and up until this last semester, and one of the things we talk about is like orthorexia. You can get to the point where it's consuming and you're pushing relationships away instead of just, I'm going to take care of me. And especially as we're coming into perimenopause and menopause, like I used to feel kind of bad about taking naps, and now I'm like, I'm out. I'm going to go relax because I feel good. And I want to keep feeling good. And so my body's kind of changing. What are your thoughts on this perimenopause and menopause stuff?
I mean, I think women need to really think about how they, you know, like come up with a game plan for it.
Hmm.
Um, you know, really, if you haven't been taking care of yourself, you need to
Yeah.
kick it in,
Because
no
it's not going
later
to get
than late
easier.
30s. Kick
Yeah.
into that nutrition, that sleep, that you know, sunshine, that light anchoring. Like I started planning for menopause in my, like when I turned 40, I was like, okay, next transition of life is menopause. How deeply can I care for my body so that I can make that transition? Um, Not like my mom.
Yeah.
I feel like my mom really crash landed into menopause and hot flashes and, moods and all kinds of things just because she didn't take care of herself. And I was just like, okay, that's my benchmark
Yeah.
of like what not to do. Bless my mom. How can I take care of myself deeply? How can I commit to that? I mean, I have clients who are like drinking into their late 40s, and I'm just like, River, I'm
Yeah.
like, get out. Like, this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good for bone health. This is not going to be good for cancer. This is not good. Like, no, no. Mm-mm.
And I love that you say that because one of the things that I just want to shout from the rooftops for women is like before you have a baby, prepare to have that baby. Highly
Yes.
nourish yourself. So when you
Yes.
have that baby, you're not, sleepless, like you can handle the sleepless nights or you can handle, like you have resilience.
Yeah.
And then planning for perimenopause and menopause. But I even go a little bit deeper. It's like, how do you prepare for your period? The first day of your period, you prepare for the next month. Are you nourishing yourself? Are you sleeping? Like, so we always pretend like it shocks us. Oh, my period happened and I have all these things like, oh, you knew last month that it
Oh
was
yeah.
happening.
That's all over my podcast, that conversation. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
it doesn't happen. Your period isn't a once a month scenario. It's all month long.
All month long.
It's all month
And
long.
and it was funny because I was talking to a couple of friends and they were saying how their periods are really hard and they're struggling and um I this last period of mine I was like I didn't even feel it really coming. Like, and I love that. Like, I'm like, wow, that's not my story. My story is, oh, remember to bring my menstrual cup because I think my period's on its way, rather than I can feel it for 2 weeks and it's incredibly painful and I'm doing, you know what I mean? And it's worth it. It's worth the taking the time every day and putting in those healing practices. So, as the bean protocol, what is on your bean protocol? Could you just lightly explain what you suggest?
I mean, so I wake up, I have psyllium husk. Um, my breakfast this morning, especially since I had a poor night's sleep last night, I had some work stress with a company that I was working with. And I was just kind of agitated and didn't sleep well. And, so this morning I was like, okay, blood sugar friendly meal, black
Mhm,
beans, avocado, turkey burger, some
mhm.
microgreens, some olive oil, all things that are going to digest slowly. They're going to keep my blood sugar, chill for the day. And what I will say is after 13 years of being on this protocol that I didn't sleep much last night. I'd say I got 4 to 5 hours of sleep, but I feel fine. I
Mhm.
feel here, ready, energetic. I got outside for a little while this morning. So it's a testament to really leaning into that self practice of eating well and getting enough fiber. Get enough
What is
fiber.
enough fiber?
Get
Because
enough
the
fiber.
average, isn't it the average American has like 15 to 20 grams? Yeah. So what is your sweet spot?
I'm 35 grams a day, 35 to 40.
Okay.
I crunch on carrots throughout the day. I eat I'm really into fermented pickles.
Mm.
So I'm just always taking in dietary and soluble and prebiotic fiber. So I do a lot of resistant starch. I do a lot of sweet potatoes that I cook and then cool. I eat them with the skins on. I scrub them before I cook them, and then I eat them with the skins on. So I'm always maximizing my fibers, especially as an omnivore, where if you get on a high meat diet and you don't have proper fibers, you're really looking at disrupting the gut microbiome. So being a high fiber omnivore is kind of the way I balance out being eating a fair amount of protein. Like I'm 5'7" and I think I eat 130 to 150 grams of protein a day,
Nice.
which is a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot. And so, now kind of going back to that sugar question, like, what do you tell people? Like, do you just cold turkey it? How do you, because it's really
Depends.
inflammatory.
It depends on the person.
Okay.
Each one of us has a capacity for the conversations around dietary changes. And it's really, I would say this is where it gets really individual and personal because some of my clients have the capacity to cold turkey, but they usually have a history of all or nothing, which
Hmm.
doesn't long term work out for them
Yeah.
because they'll do the nothing, 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 and nothing, and then and then I think recently I had a gut specialist on the podcast, and he was saying a weekend of eating poorly disrupts the gut microbiome just as much as eating poorly all week does. So if
Mm.
you're a person who eats well all week and then you think, the weekend, I'm going to hit all my favorites, you've done just as much damage than if you'd had eaten all week crappy
Yeah.
foods. So it's really beginning to respect the role of sugar in your life. I'm not someone who walks around going, there's good or bad foods. I believe there's not good or bad foods, there are good or bad relationships with food.
Hmm.
And if a food, you are willing to sacrifice your health for a food group, that's not a good relationship.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking one of the things I really feel strongly about is shifting that mindset to where it's like, because people say, "Oh, do you have cheat days?" I'm like, why would I want to cheat on myself? So no, I don't have cheat days, and I don't think you should plan a day to destroy yourself and then spend the next several days or weeks trying to build it back up, right? Especially as we come into like Christmas season and into the winter, we crave those um comfort foods. And for a lot of people, those comfort foods are um cakes and puddings and pies and things like that. And so gearing more towards healthy living. Um, So when you're working with someone and yourself, how long do you, how long does it take to really start seeing results?
Again, individual. Like I have
Yeah.
some clients who see that I call them the fast healers, and then I'm part of the slow healers category. I have the fast healers who, within a month, they're like, great periods, second month, great periods, great digestion, skin is good. Everything just, it's almost like their body was just like waiting. It was like, come
Yeah.
on, girl, give me that good, good. And honestly, it's my fast healers that I worry about the most because something about the struggle to heal really imprints the mind of this is worth taking care of long term.
Hmm.
And for my quick healers, usually those are the ones I see back the most because they heal quick and then they go back to their old habits quick
Yeah.
because they're like, oh, that was a no brainer. I'll just next time just like do that. And then each time they do that, it takes longer,
Yeah.
um, depending on how far off their gut is and how far off their nutrients are. And so it's annoying to answer the question like that, but personalized nutrition is personalized nutrition because the journey is so individual.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
unfortunately.
so let's talk a little bit then about those. Have you worked with those who have gallbladder issues or have no gallbladder? And what are your,
Oh, I've saved many a gallbladder in my career thus far.
yeah.
And those clients are still with me, interestingly enough, mostly because they're just like, I love it. I love this community. I love being here.
Hmm.
I can eat fats. My gallbladder's totally fine. I think my podcast with Lindsay, for anybody who wants to get that inspiration to heal a gallbladder, she totally healed her gallbladder on the Bean protocol and got pregnant while on the Bean protocol and had a healthy pregnancy while healing her gallbladder on the Bean protocol.
I love that because so many of us like I don't have a gallbladder. I was living in the middle of Iowa. This is like really we still had dial-up kind of internet like so I
How
was
long ago was that for you?
it was 2005 through 8 and so I was out in the middle of nowhere. And I had just moved there. So I'd moved from Denver to this small little town in the middle of nowhere, not a lot of resources. And there is there is someone who has experienced gallbladder pain knows that it's not a joke. And so I was getting it all the time and I didn't know what it was. And every time I'd be in the middle of the night, like just vomiting and diarrhea and like extreme pain. And then I'd be like, Jared, and this is my husband, you have to take me to the emergency room. And so he's like, okay. And then I'd stand up and it would go away. And I was like, what is going on? Like, even though I would stand up during that, but it would be like, my body's like, oh, stop doing it. She's going to take us to the doctor. And so they kept saying, well, come back when you're in the middle of it. So finally, it was a weird thing because even on the, they said that I had a really high tolerance for pain. And so by the time they found it, like, they were like, and I really think I probably could have saved it. But I didn't have the tools back then. Like, I was like, ah. So I got it out with the promise of you'll feel so much better. You'll be fine. You can get back to normal. And that was nothing could be farther from the truth. I actually continued to get sicker. So that's why I started going, okay, wait. And so then I put myself through nutrition school and had to learn for myself because I keep getting even gastroenterologists who are like, it's fine. Take some Pepto. You'll be fine. So um when someone's struggling with digestion, like beans are hard. So what do you tell them out of the gate? Like, how do you even start?
I mean, again, it depends on the person, but integration, slow integration, because oftentimes the person who's going to lose their gallbladder is somebody who hasn't eaten well most of their lives,
Hmm.
right? You can say as a generalization, there's probably some odd people in that group, but generally, so therefore the gut microbiome is going to really get excited and ferment the crap out of the beans, and that's going to be uncomfy. Most people don't chew well, so you've got the fast eaters who are just putting large chunks of food down in the stomach. Like you basically, I think one of my emails that newsletters that I sent out was like, chew your food. And here's all the reasons why you chew
Yeah.
your food. Because people go, you think there's undigested food in my stool. I'm like, did you actually chew it?
That's
You
one of the
wouldn't.
things out of the gate. The first thing I do is I go through when I'm working with clients is there's these eating principles. One of them is chewing. Like was the saying that says drink your foods and chew your drinks. Like
Mhm.
get that amylase in there and chew,
Chew.
breaking things down because downstream it doesn't get easier.
So, if to answer your question, if somebody starts slow and they chew well and they're actually present to the food that they're, and I can say as a young mom, I can remember chewing and swallowing faster than I even could remember eating because I had a kid in my lap and another
Mhm.
one on the table and, juggling that mom life. And I joke that one of the funniest things is looking down and realizing that the crown of their head is covered in my food because I'm just like trying to shovel food
Shovel
in
it.
before we, are on to the next thing. And it doesn't help us. So chewing food, integrating slowly. People get really excited when the fiber revolution is happening now. And,
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
years I've been like slinging beans and trying to get people, 13 years, get people to eat beans. And now it's like everywhere you turn, somebody's like, eat beans. And I'm like, yes, we're
Yes.
there. We're in the fiber revolution, you guys. Um, and, it's just go slow.
Yeah.
And not everybody digests every bean. So don't get discouraged if you have a bean and you don't digest it well. Each one has its unique polysaccharide makeup, and that might not be the correct balance for your body. So
Yeah,
it's
I know
just kind
for
of a
me,
little trial and error.
I love black beans. However, they're harder for me to digest. So I know that I have to uh, soak them for about 24 hours and then I cook them in a lot of spices and
Mhm.
really cook them. And then I'm fine. But I can't like just, oh, open a can of black beans and because that for some reason that those are the ones that give me a little bit of a challenge.
Isn't that funny that it's the
Yeah.
black and the black bean was the only one I could eat, and that's the bean that I started with. But there is an herb, not a well-known herb called epazote, that you can actually cook with your beans to help with the gas.
Yeah, okay. And there's another one called asafoetida.
That's
That's
a good
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Used a
So
lot in Indian cooking. Do you do a lot
yeah.
of Indian?
Yeah. So for all of you out there listening, like there's things that we can do to help. So how does fiber or the beans support gallbladder and liver health?
So it binds soluble fiber, binds bile. And so anytime you bind bile and poop it out, it doesn't recycle. And anytime it doesn't recycle, it's not going to be, especially if your diet is really crappy, high saturated fat, fried foods, high processed foods, you're going to start thinning out that bile and actually the liver will produce more and that stronger bile coming through will help dissolve some of the stones. But usually people with gallbladder issues have cholesterol issues as well. Was that part of your matrix of
I didn't.
unwellness?
No.
Did you
I,
ever check your cholesterol?
but it's a blood work, but we didn't go, I think, deep into it, but like I had good HDL, LDL type. Yeah. But
Yeah, I
never.
find that always fascinating when that happens. That because typically what I'll see is a matrix of illness around the gallbladder. It's not just the gallbladder; it's the cholesterol as well.
Oh, good. Is there anything else that you would look out for that might be signs of gallbladder struggle?
I mean, first of all, I would just say for everybody, regular blood work is such an important part
Just
of being a
standard blood
human.
work?
Yeah, and looking at LDL, HDL, ApoB, VLDL, like these are all really good markers, just to track, to keep an eye on, for heart health, for inflammation in the body. It's
Mhm.
a sign, it's a feedback of diet, how much fiber you're getting. So I look at a lot of blood work in my practice, and you can see the nice thing about getting regular blood work is you can start to see when decline is happening.
Mhm.
And especially hormones, we haven't really talked about that, but for women, I feel like getting hormone checks regularly is incredibly helpful to see what your levels are, normal for you.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of get a baseline
Yeah, catch a
repeatedly.
baseline once a year. Go in. Usually, it's paid if you have insurance. It's paid by insurance, or you get a copay on it. And you don't have to go get fancy blood work. It's just track. Just start tracking and keeping an eye on it.
Okay. Have you worked with any women who have low testosterone? Because I know we
Yeah,
deal
usually
with a lot of
there's
women who have high estrogen, right?
yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, I've worked with women who have low testosterone, and usually along with PCOS, it's a spectrum, but you can have high testosterone and you start getting the whiskers and,
Mhm.
you know, you have your body odor and there's other issues that come along with it. But the low testosterone usually indicates something not going on, not supportive in the adrenals
Mm.
a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
kind of.
because testosterone is one of the hormones that even in menopause doesn't usually dip unless we haven't taken care of ourselves because it becomes the dominant hormone
Yeah.
in menopause.
All right. So, what would you say to those people who are saying, you know what, we shouldn't be having these beans and stuff because of anti-nutrients and stuff like that? That's still going around crazy enough.
Yeah, I would say that there's very few people who genetically have an issue processing oxalates and anti-nutrients are cooked out. You can go to Harvard Health and look it up, research it there. Wonderful articles on how these anti-nutrients are really cooked out in the cooking process and pressure cooking and soaking. Oxalates are the other concern, and oxalates are an interesting one because oxalates are something in a healthy gut, healthy body. You wouldn't even notice them because you pee them out. The only time they're a problem is if you're a person who comes from a high antibiotic background
Hmm.
where you've killed off the gut microbiome, which is part of the processing of oxalates. So we're seeing a bigger conversation around oxalates out of the ordinary, which would normally be kidney stones,
Hmm.
where people are having issues digesting these foods and get kind of like inflammatory reactions to high oxalate foods. And that really speaks to a poor cultivated gut microbiome when that's happening. So cultivating a healthy, everybody should be a farmer for their gut microbiome, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And beans are an important part of that and soluble fiber.
Yeah. And if you can't eat them off the bat, then it's looking at the other options for fiber to build the gut up so that you
Mhm.
can eat them because they do offer an incredible amount of nutrients.
Yeah, absolutely. We don't just, I'm like you with we don't take out entire food groups, right? We learn what's going on. Because even with grains, we talk about like fresh milled whole grains, those type of things, how nutrient is there. So if you're having a struggle digesting them, we have to go, why? Why, what is going on? And we can fix that. Because I remember my gut was trashed and so it really came down to everything I ate and even apples, were like, oh my
Oh
gosh,
yeah, because that's a lot of it's inulin, I think,
inulin.
that's in
Yeah.
apples, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so understanding that and going, okay, now we don't just keep taking out foods, we fix the problem so we can eat foods.
So you can move forward. Yeah. Sometimes you go back so you can move forward, right?
Hmm.
Like if you have a lot of pathogens in the gut, you might have to move away from sulfur rich foods for a little while before you can slowly ease back into them. It's really the game of how do you starve out the gut parts of the gut microbiome so that you can balance it with more favorable microbes in the gut.
Yeah.
So
And I love that you say that because I think especially when someone's coming to us very sick and we say, "Hey, this is a healing protocol that will help you." I always have to remind them, this is just for now. It's not forever. Now there are certain things that are forever, right? But like if we're having to take something out, it doesn't mean you're never going to be able to have that again. It just means for now, let's let that gut heal and the bacteria grow back and then you'll be able to eat it more ease.
healing isn't a language that we understand in modern life because we're used to taking something and the issue going away.
Hmm.
So it's kind of moving back into health as a practice and as a meditation versus a quick fix. And that's hard because we live in a
Absolutely.
quick fix world.
We live in a quick fix world, but what's so interesting is like we need to be building resilience because we are going to be knocked down with something. Like you're doing really good, you're walking along, and I know that you lost your house in the fire. Like you can't anticipate that, but because you had built resilience, it's like, okay, and we've built some habits, you can manage that better. My grandbaby was in the hospital for 4 months. She was really sick. Like building that resilience. And because I have a tendency to like my nervous system is like, yeah, nope, and I crash, and it's like I get chronic fatigue, right? So I have to be very careful. So I usually have lots of energy, but if I am not taking care of myself, I start to slide down. So I know, like we were talking about, that I just this is my life. This is, and it's a beautiful life, and it's not bad to take care of myself. It just I'm not I'm in long-term remission, right? And so it's just kind of where my body will sometimes have its weak link. All right. So one of the questions I get too is really beans for breakfast? So what would you say to that?
Oh, savory breakfast. I mean, if you want to feel balanced and energized all day, start with a savory breakfast. You want to ride the roller coaster of reactions and emotions, have a sweet breakfast. It's pretty as simple as that. What we eat helps us regulate or helps us dysregulate. A lot of people who have a sweet breakfast crash and they're irritable and they're, without really understanding that there's a link there. And I would say that probably one of the greatest gifts I ever gave my family was having a savory breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting used to that because, like I said, when I was growing up, it was all sweet all the time.
Twinkies. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I wanted that. I'm really glad I didn't have it. But yeah, it's like kids are just little sugar addicts.
they are. And that I feel like that and not moving is really adding to the ADHD thing that's going on and behavioral issues because you can't, like, I know when I'm not eating right, like my mind is kind of crazy and going everywhere. And if I'm not moving, that energy kind of builds into either anxiety or like being grumpy. Like, 'cause,
Mhm.
so I'll go, oh, if I'm working too hard and I haven't moved, then I'm like, oh, we need to go on a walk in the sunshine and be have something really good to eat. So what are your thoughts on this I don't want to say it's a trend, it's been going on for a while about raw foodists.
I would say you're missing out on a lot of the benefits and the nutrients by cooking because there's a lot of vegetables that you only get the nutrients by cooking them. It liberates their nutrients. Just like adding fat to a vegetable will liberate their fat soluble nutrients. So I think that there's kind of a missed opportunity whenever we become an extremist.
Hmm. Yeah. So what would you say was your biggest hurdles physically, emotionally, and as you were healing yourself?
Sugar. I didn't have an issue giving up alcohol. Like alcohol kind of gave up on me long before I gave up on it. It just was
Hmm.
kind of like coming to terms with the fact that, okay, tequila unique is not a personality anymore.
Yeah.
Um, but sugar was really the hard one because I had gotten into the habit of justifying it, of using it as a way of soothing myself, rewarding myself. It became this thing that had a life of its own. So really negotiating that relationship and that addiction and really facing it head on of like, I have an addiction because I'm willing to sacrifice my health for it.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. And I call it the bad boyfriend. It's like if you have a bad boyfriend, you want to block, or girlfriend, you want to block the number,
Yeah.
or friend for that matter, for anybody. Like if they're not treating you right, you would block their number and move on unless you were hooking into the drama. And I was hooking into the drama of sugar, of just like, I would stop for a week or 2 weeks and then I'd sneak back in. And then it was like this back and forth, like, hey, you up? And I'm like, yeah, I am. Let's hit that sugar.
Yeah.
It was really a toxic relationship. So what I decided for the long time is like, I'm just, until I have the capacity to make this relationship healthy, I'm just going to block its number. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to look at it. I'm not going to think about it. And if I do, I'm going to think about it in terms of, is this going to help me or hurt me? Oh, it's going to hurt me. Okay. No, thank you. And it took a long time for me to finally have the capacity to go, okay, sugar's not bad. My relationship to sugar was bad.
Hmm.
Sugar is not a treat. Sugar is a choice.
Yeah.
It's not a reward. It's a choice. And I think the problem is most parenting, and I'm guilty of it as well, of like, hey, you eat your dinner, you get the dessert.
Yeah.
Horrible, horrible parenting. Horrible. I apologize to my daughters all the time. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't know what else to do. Sugar should not be a reward because then the trend is that sugar is always a reward. Sugar becomes the reward, and sugar is just a choice. And if I think we have a non-emotional relationship with sugar, then we can actually have a good relationship with sugar, which is some of the time it's okay. Most of the time, probably don't want it on, don't want to have it all the time, especially in perimenopause and menopause, where it's really easy to become insulin resistant and
Mhm.
rapidly gain weight from sugar imbalances in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that because growing up with when I had my kids, I was not great on the sugar front. But one of the things I did do was I told my boys, I had three boys, you can stay up as long as you want at night, but there's no electronics and stuff. So if you want to read, if you want to color, if you want to do whatever. Anyway, they always ended up just kind of going to bed when we did, right?
Yeah.
And so fast forward like 20 years later, they're adult men in the military going, I go to bed at 8. Like when I'm good, I get to go to bed early, not late. And but I see that people are like, with my students, if I do a really good job, I'll stay up late. And it's like, that's not a reward. That will just throw your body off and your hormones and your mind and all the things. So yeah, reframing things is like, oh, this I'm loving my body and this is more healthy this way.
Yeah.
So, looking back, what do you wish everyone knew about real gut healing? And particularly women who think their issues can't improve because their gallbladder is removed.
Oh, you definitely can. First, just to answer that one right off the bat, like I've worked with so many people without a gallbladder, and your diligence will be your reward.
Hmm.
Your gallbladder can heal. Yes, you have free range bile that's not as strong. But even so, some people have a perfectly fine time digesting healthy fats, maybe not fried foods, maybe not your fast food if that's what you're into, but the body has been altered. And because of that alteration, it might need special care for the rest of your days. And I kind of see that as being okay. I don't see that as like, my body needs special care for the rest of my days now that I know my greatest weakness is inflammation in my gut. So
Yeah.
I'm going to show up every day for this incredible body so I can have this incredible life. And it's not a burden. So I think shifting that from, oh man, to cool, I get to take care of myself. And this is a call to action to do that. The things that I wish others would know, I think that was the first
Hmm.
question
Yeah.
about gut healing is the gut shifts with everything we eat. And if we go on vacation, a lot of people have vacation brain of like, oh, I'm on vacation. It's like, no, that week or 2 weeks of vacation that you're eating, you know, vacation food shifts the gut microbiome.
Hmm.
So it's really contemplating that your gut microbiome is your internal farm and you are constantly farming and feeding and taking care of the soil. And if you don't, then you end up with a lot of pests and bugs and different bacteria in there that don't belong and disrupt gut microbiome, which long term disrupts health and immune system and everything else you can imagine. So colon cancer is on the rise in young people and old people. How did we get there? By not taking care of our gut microbiome. So please, if you take away nothing else from this talk, please take care of your gut microbiome.
Yeah, I love that you said that because even now it's harder. Like we have to be more aware because there's so many foods that actually destroy it. So, 100 years ago, this was not that big of a deal because there weren't so many things, sprays, types of food that actually go in and destroy. So we have to be really cognizant. I had a student ask me, well, how many monsters can I have to be and still be healthy? I said, to me, that's like asking like how many shots of Clorox bleach are healthy for you? Like none, none. But if you choose to do it, like maybe I don't know, like once a month, like if you choose that, but I would hope you choose out of that,
Yeah.
because there's a reason you need that energy. There's a reason you need that lift.
Well, I think also the hard part is that as young people, I work with a lot of young people, and everybody has a friend who can do anything and they don't get acne, who can do anything and they feel fine and they don't get anxious, and has a totally different disposition and can get away with a lot of stuff. And then you have the sensitive kid who they start drinking high sugar drinks and high caffeine drinks, and boom, they've got cystic acne. And
Mhm.
so it's beginning the story of individuality at an age where it's hard to accept.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you accept as a sensitive person, for whatever the reasons, sensitive body, how do you not only accept that that's your body, but begin to take pride in it of like,
Yeah.
ah, this is one of my differences. And that's okay. But when we're young, we are not looking for differences. We are looking for how we are the same.
Yeah.
And even adults, a lot of adults who haven't matured are still looking for how we are the same versus, oh, we are different. And that's beautiful. And that's okay to fit out, you know?
Yeah. I love that you say that because for the longest time, so I've been married for 26 years, and I would compare myself to my husband.
Mm-hmm.
He's that person you're talking about, full of energy from the morning time he wakes up to time he goes to bed, loves like heavy labor. He can eat anything, no stomach aches, no headaches, nothing. And I'm over here, this sensitive being and a woman who goes through cycles and an infradian rhythm. And then I had three sons, and now I'm trying to stay keep up with my three sons and unconsciously comparing myself until finally I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Not only am I the only woman in this house, but I'm a highly sensitive woman. I'm sensitive to smells, and not even like, oh, they make me sick, but just like I can smell everything, right? And so I smell things, I touch, I and so but the gift of that is I can also really read a room, help people out, understand what's going on. So I don't want to give up my sensitivity, but I have to nurture it and keep it safe. Right. And that's why
Yeah.
I do what I do because I can see patterns in people. So when people are talking, when they're telling me their story, I'm like, oh, there's a pattern. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
and then I get all excited. And whenever I'm with when a client on the first day, it's so funny because I start smiling a lot and they're like, I'm like, no, I'm not happy that you're sick. I'm happy because I know we can help. And this is going to be amazing. Um, so, of all the people you have supported, what has been the most valuable principle or mindset shift that will help with rebuilding and staying on the course?
How does this serve me? How does this serve my greatest goal? And what is my greatest goal? Like, my greatest goal is no flares for life. How am I going to show up daily for that overarching theme for my life? And that theme of no flares for life means that I can show up for my community, my family, my friends. It means that I'm a participant in life at a high level. So it's really identifying your why. Why do I want to be healthy? Why do I want to stay healthy? What are the benefits of doing this? And I think once the conversation becomes not about what you're not doing, but about what you are doing, you become empowered. And empowerment is how we stay with something. If we walk around with a lack mentality of, oh, all the things that I had to give up to feel great, then we're going to be obsessed with all the things that we're not having. And that's a no-win conversation, and that's a no-win game. So it's really shifting to, what am I trading in for the things that don't serve me?
Yeah, and as you were saying that, I was thinking, we have to give up this party mindset, right? Like, and it's kind of a selfish thing, whereas instead of like, how can I be of value to other people? I love there's a scripture that everybody knows. It says, that we are to love others as we love ourselves. And I think people don't pay attention to that as we love ourselves. When we love ourselves, we can show up for other people. Because I know when I was not loving myself and I was sick and it was tired, I was grumpy. I didn't do things. I didn't like people would be like, hey, can you help volunteer? I'm like, I no, I don't even have the bandwidth to do my own stuff, let alone help you. And so now it's like, oh, how does that feel in my body? How does that feel in my mind? Absolutely. I'd love to show up. And so we can get very intentional about our energy too and where we give it. And because we learn to really respect ourselves and honor. And do you feel like you have to get past that? How people have kind of that weird way of like, oh, if they don't like something, they just cut it out instead of instead of cutting a person out and just saying they're toxic, I can't do this. I'm like, or how can I shift this relationship? So it kind of happens with food too. Like this person, so the person I'm thinking of, who may be needy is saying, oh, I'm willing to give this much. So it's not all or nothing. It's more of how can I where can I give and how can I give best? Do you find that that happens kind of in relationships with people as they're going through your bean protocol?
Yeah, I would say that when you get used to taking care of yourself, that spreads to all parts of your life and reality. And we think, oh, prioritizing myself, that's so selfish.
Hmm.
When in fact, when you prioritize your well being, it's the least selfish thing you can do because there's nothing more selfish than treating ourselves poorly into disease where our family has to worry about us and take care of us. And it's beautiful if you have a family that has the capacity to take care of you. But it's even more beautiful if you take such good care of yourself that if it ends up for whatever reason that one is unwell, it's not at your own hand.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's
Um,
like, oh, this happened, not because I didn't take care of myself, but because sometimes shit just happens.
yeah. And I think I love that you said that because sometimes it does just happen. And to shame ourselves, to guilt ourselves is not productive either.
Not helpful. No, and that does happen. I would say it's a lot harder for it to happen if you are in habit of caring well for your body and not abusing it, for the mouth party. But so yes, if we're unwell and we have shown up for ourselves and taken care of ourselves, that's going to happen. But I encourage all of them to really look at it through the lens of self-care, not being optional, but really as a loving act to your family, your friends, yourself, your community.
Yeah. I was telling a girlfriend that I was having on the podcast. She goes, "Oh, I love Unique." And I go, "Oh," I said, "Why, what is it that you love about her?" And she goes, "That she just teaches me to be gentle with myself, to like one foot in front of the other." And I said, "I love that too, is that, we can say that we want to finish the 20, the marathon, but really sometimes it's one, and maybe you need to sit down, and then there's one step in front of the other, and then but it's moving forward. It's forward momentum that is the most important."
Yeah, and just those little changes you can begin to make that take up space. I think a lot of women historically, we try to not take up very much space and we're
Mhm.
the helpers and we're the yes people. And to actually have a boundary in place and go, no, I'm not doing this right now. Or no, you know what? I'm exhausted. I just need to lay flat and stare at the ceiling.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love you. I'll see you
And that's
later. Like
okay.
just
Yeah.
to be able to do little things that are self-care begins to develop that muscle of self-love as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I saw that you posted this quote and I didn't know whose it was, if it was yours or someone else's, but it says, "Choosing a healthy lifestyle isn't about being healthy. It's about stacking the odds in your favor. It's a way of showing up for yourself, a clear dedication."
I wrote that. Yes.
Did you? Okay, that was yours, and I loved it because I think doing something it can be short-sighted, or it can just, and so I know that when I see something very long, like the rest of my life, I'm hoping to have many more years. Um, I want it to be healthy, so it's kind of like just settle in, and the stacking things in my favor rather than the ride or die type of like, I'm going to be all in or all out, like you were saying. And
Yes. Sliding in sideways isn't usually the best way. I mean, I saw the results of that.
as we are leaving, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can find you and maybe a final word to our audience.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and having this really beautiful conversation. I really appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram at Unique Hammond. You can find me on my website at yourgreat.com or on YouTube at The Bean Protocol. I have all kinds of little outlets of places I put information and yeah, I would just say that wherever you are on your journey, your body is incredible. And as long as you're above ground, your body is turning over cells and has the capacity to heal. So
Thank
it's kind of
you.
beautiful. No matter what age. I work with a lot of older people as well, and you watch them heal, and we're all just like, wow, that's kind of cool, isn't it?
It is amazing. Well, I thank you for your time. And for those of you listening, thank you for being here today. And until next time, happy digesting. Before you go, I have a little surprise for you today as a thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, I'd love your help getting it to more hands and hearts. When you share an episode on social media, along with what you learned or loved, and tag me, you'll be entered to win a free mini coaching session with me. Every share counts as an entry. Make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss what's coming next, and keep those reviews and topic suggestions coming. They truly mean so much to me, and I'm grateful you're here.